Hi and welcome to Visual Art Photography Tutorials. Maybe the easiest thing a photographer can do is to pick up one of these and take a picture. However, the toughest thing may be to take pictures that are different than the billions of other ones that are floating around out there. So how do you do it? How do you make your pictures different than everybody else's? Well, there's lots of different tips that I can give you. Today, I've got two really useful ones to get you started. As always, if you have any questions or comments, they can be addressed down below. And you can feel free to share this video or any other tutorial that's on the channel. That's what they're there for. All right, tip number one. Let's go. Change your angle of view. That's tip number one. Now, in this particular case, I looked outside. It had just snowed. It was this heavy snow that was sticking to everything. And I looked in the corner of my backyard and I saw this. And what these are just dried up flowers. It's winter time now, so my impression was that they kind of looked like mushrooms. This is what I saw from the window. The snow top, they look like the caps of mushrooms. That kind of got my interest. So I went outside and I took this picture because that was my intention, to kind of try to render it like mushrooms. Now, you see the fence in the back. That wasn't too attractive, so I moved in a little bit closer. I zoomed in a little bit closer, and I took this shot. Okay. I wasn't that pleased with it. So what I did was I changed the angle of what I was doing, and I started to, I stood up, and I shot almost straight down, and I came up with this. Now I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, hey, this is more like it. This is something a little bit different. You don't normally see this. It almost looks like an aerial shot of trees, if you know what I mean. But you have, it's mostly white. There's a bit of shadow here. And I thought, you know something? I've just about got it where I want it to be. So I stood over it even a little bit more, and I shot exactly straight down. And I came up with this. And I thought, that's what I want. It's abstract. You don't really know what it is. It's just abstract. And you've got the outline of these flowers, these dried flowers, but everything else is white. It's very minimalistic. It's very simplistic. I was actually thinking that I would take this out here in Photoshop, just, clone it out so that they would all look exactly the same. Then I thought, no, I'm going to leave that. That adds a little bit of tension. It gets your eye to keep on going back here because you want to keep on looking at this piece here, and then you go back to the rest of the image. So I left it like that, and I'm happy I did. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's the way I wanted it to be in the end. So tip number one, change the angle of what you're doing so that you can go from something like this, which was okay, to something like that. Now, tip number two, I've actually covered part of it in another tutorial, and I'll put the banner up there right now for you if you want to go to that. But, something, I can't say this enough. When you're doing photography, try to fill the frame, try to move in closer. Now, this is something called the Sweet Tooth Bakery, which exists in a small town called Lancaster, Ontario. And there are some really great people who own the place and work there. And they have the absolute best butter tarts you could ever taste. So if you're ever in that area, you've got to check out this place because the butter tarts are just incredible. But I've gotten off track here. Well, I'm talking about food. That's what happens sometimes. Okay, so I'm looking at this. I'm across the street and I'm taking a shot of this. Fine. What's interesting there to me? Well, it's this over here. Okay, because again, I'm thinking kind of in an abstract way. So what do you do with that? Well, you move in closer and you start to fill the frame. So I come up with something like this. Now, that's okay. It's not bad. It's shot at about 90 millimeters. I've zoomed my lens to about 90 millimeters with an aperture of f11. So I'm thinking, hey, that's not bad, but that's not exactly where I want to go. So I zoom in a little bit more, and I come up with my final image, which is an abstract, pure abstract. But because of the absolute blue sky and because of the blue over here of the siding, it's almost matching. And then you have this white jagged, straight jagged line going across. It's very abstract. So again, take a look at the scene. Direct your attention to something that interests you. Move closer or zoom in, fill the frame, and go from this to something like that.
If you haven't tried one or both of those tips before, get out there and try them. They may make a big difference in your photography. Until next time, I'm Ray Scott reminding you it's not what you see, it's how you see it. And I'll see you soon.